The first level, area, fight, wave of monsters trying to kill you is supposed to set the tone for the rest of a game, providing an instant impression that, if done well, should grab the player's attention and convince them to keep playing. In days past, it was often used as a demo for the full game. I know, try before you buy. It's kind of insane that isn't still a thing. Anyway, poor first levels can often spell doom, as in this day of Netflix, mobile phones, social media feeds, and even other human beings demanding our attention, few people have the patience to slog through something they're not enjoying, no matter how great they've heard the game becomes. Looking at you, Days Gone, looking at you. A great first level can engage the player instantly, teach them everything they need to know about gameplay mechanics, story, and the world that they inhabit, making the gamer want to invest countless hours into such a digital playground of possibility. First impressions do indeed count more than ever in gaming, meaning that opening levels will forever be important, but which are the very best? I'm Scott from WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 best opening levels in video game history. Number 10, Pallet Town and Beyond. Pokemon Red and Blue. No, not yellow, because in Red and Blue, everybody had to make that choice. In the prestigious lab in tiny Pallet Town, a generation of players made the call as to their constant companion for the adventure ahead. And almost all of you can likely remember the very first choice you made: Bulbasaur, Charmander, or Squirtle. All three of the cute little creatures made a case to be your companion, and in truth there wasn't a bad choice amongst them, providing you were then okay slogging through that Onyx fight with Charmander anyway. Your first starter Pokemon, that first battle, the first time you caught a Pidgey, and the amusing and childish nickname you gave to your rival, all will be remembered by millions of players. Speaking of which, let me know your own Pokemon rival's name down in the comments. Mine was Dickbag, because of course it was. Number 9, The Maze. Pac-Man. The reach of Pac-Man's simple maze-based setup is so wide, literally every single person who's ever played can picture the whole thing in their mind right now. The first stage is the most forgiving, but players know what the objective is, the dangers that are present, how to play, and how things can get hella sick as soon as you chomp down on a large pellet. The push and pull power dynamics of Pac-Man are rarely highlighted today, but going from munching ghosts to knowing that you're instantly weakened after is a rush that immediately feels addictive as hell. Everything you need to know is contained on that first screen. Later levels use the same maze, but ghosts become faster and more dangerous, ramping up the challenge considerably. Fun, iconic, and lovable. If you've somehow never played Pac-Man, maybe thinking it was too old or whatever, please get on that. And if you want to really get crazy, grab the Pac-Man Championship Edition on Xbox backwards compatibility. That thing is like injecting Pac-Man's gameplay loop straight into your vein. Number 8, Deployment. Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Even before this game starts, it asks you whether or not you've played any of the previous games in the series, purely to determine whether or not to show a self-deprecating joke at Metal Gear Solid 2's expense. Because Metal Gear Solid 3 is a game able to simultaneously deliver a gripping Cold War-era espionage thriller and still make time to throw in a brilliant fourth wall-breaking gag. As soon as you take control of Snake, you'll realize that this is a complete departure to the series' previous outing. Tight angular corridors have been replaced with wide jungle environment, with a huge emphasis on camouflage and using your surroundings to your advantage. There are also new dangers in the form of poisonous local wildlife, as well as quicksand and all sorts of hungry carnivores waiting to eat your ankles for breakfast. Also gone are helpful technological elements like having enemy guards' field of view visible on your minimap, as this has been replaced by a more primitive sonar-based system which can show the location of living beings, but with no distinction between a harmless bird and a lethal rifle-armed guard. Even using this system runs the risk of being noticed, as it creates a ping every time it's used. All of this combined created a brilliant sense of survival, and it's an evolution of the stealth genre that we just never saw coming. Nothing quite like Metal Gear Solid 3 had been done before, and it was instrumental in the game being considered as one of the best of all time. Number 7, Green Hill Zone, Sonic the Hedgehog. Speed and exploration. Those are the two words that best encapsulate the classic Sonic games, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the first level, Green Hill Zone. The bright, colourful aesthetic and chirpy music instantly welcomes players, with the multitude of loops, slopes, and corkscrews emphasizing the series' trademark sense of speed. Almost all of the features that help and hinder Sonic throughout the rest of the game, and overall the trilogy of Mega Drive originals, are introduced right here, with TV screens, badniks, springs, and spikes in abundance. The setting is so iconic I put it at the very top of the most iconic levels in gaming history. and it's been referenced or featured in almost every Sonic game since. It's over to the Sonic fans as to whether this is actually the peak of the entire franchise right at the beginning, but that's a discussion for the rest of time. Number 6, a rock and a hard place. Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Few games have ever grabbed your attention so immediately as by dangling the main character off a cliff in a train carriage that could fall at any second. After the first Uncharted introduced us to a beloved wisecracking adventurer called Nathan Drake, this superior sequel thrust him into mortal peril right from the moment the game started, demanding you act as fast as possible to rescue your new favorite hero. It was a pretty incredible way to start a game, as the sequence was presented without context, so after we'd negotiated this dangling death trap, we were more than hooked in, Tarantinoing our way through the story to find out what had gone down beforehand. I will say though, was it weird to anyone else that when you get back to this moment in the timeline, you can play Drake's actions differently? Like it kinda breaks physics and time that he escaped in 2 different ways in the exact same scene. Does that even make sense? It's just me in a booth right now, so let me know. Number 5, the UAC. Doom 2016. Now, I did already place Doom's E1M1 in my ranking of the most iconic levels ever, but where that is recognizable and lovable, Doom's 2016 reboot reapproached the franchise like the Doomslayer would a weakened Cacodemon, just punching right through any expectations and being thoroughly badass. Because it would have been so easy to mess this up. Original designs for Doom 4 were way slower and more considered, kinda like Doom 3. Until id Software realized going against the grain was immediately more engaging and way more powerful. Not only do they frame Doomguy's resurrection as this messianic figure that all sorts of different people have been worshipping, a meta comment on the series' role in gaming history, but the Slayer himself could not care less. Characters try to tell him what's needed and he just breaks screens left, right, and center, destroying health drones to nab power-ups faster so he can get to more killing. The weapons kick hard. Mick Gordon's score is heavy metal by way of industrial synthwave. And they even find time to halt the music so that you cocking a shotgun previews the ensuing chaos. Doom was back, and this first impression will be what an entire generation tells their children about. Number 4, Prologue, NIER Automata. As if Platinum needed to prove their mastery of action gaming anymore after Bayonetta, Metal Gear Rising, Vanquish, etc., 2017's NIER has an opening unlike anything I'd ever seen or have played since. Putting you in the shoes of Android 2B, Platinum effortlessly segue between arcadey bullet hell vehicle sequences, stylish hack and slash, side-scrolling blasting, and top-down shooting. It's all done with a perfect control scheme you're unaware actually fits so many different genres at once. And the game just tilts the camera to let you know that things have changed. It's by threading all these things together that the action genre gets blown wide open. This fluid meshing of so many elements genuinely made me giddy for the future of gaming and Platinum's role in it. As if NIER wasn't already one of the best games of the generation, this intro really is something else, and I recommend it to everybody that can hear my voice. Number 3, Chapter 1, Resident Evil 4. The 4th numbered entry in Capcom's genre-defining series was a huge risk for the developers at the time. The previous installments had emphasized a slow, tense exploration and ammo conservation feel with mostly static camera angles, seemingly deliberate awkward controls, and monsters that were just as likely to kill you as you were them in any encounter. Resident Evil 4's first level then made the player feel significantly more powerful, as the shambling enemies could be fairly easily dropped with a couple of well-placed bullets when taken one by one. There were just enough of these encounters during the first stage to lull the unsuspecting gamer into a false sense of security, because then you arrive at the central village. Suddenly there are far more psychotic homicidal maniacs than you can comfortably handle. And just like in the original games, running away seems to be the most sensible option. Maybe you manage to pick off a group of scythe-wielding madmen and start to feel like a badass again, then you hear that chainsaw and feel the dread welling up. This roller coaster of player experience ends with the tolling of a church bell, leaving the player with a sense of confusion as to why the entire village was out for your blood in the first place, and why they all so suddenly disappeared, only for the opening title screen to finally pop up. Brilliant. Number 2, Prologue, The Last of Us. Although it would go on to do so many seismic things for gaming history, the very opening of The Last of Us charts the outbreak of the zombie apocalypse mostly in real time. The player controls eventual protagonist Joel's daughter Sarah, showing the fear and confusion that grips the world following this mysterious infection. Military checkpoints are quickly established in an attempt to contain those afflicted, with tragic consequences for Joel. As they encounter a soldier after managing to escape the city, that soldier follows some orders and attempts to shoot Joel, despite him protesting that they're not affected by the outbreak. There is a slight semblance of hope when Joel's brother Tommy arrives on the scene and shoots the soldier dead. But it's right here where Joel discovers that daughter Sarah took a fatal bullet from those initial shots. and he ends the scene cradling her heartbroken as she dies in his arms. The scene is heart-wrenching for several reasons, mainly because we just spent the preceding 15 or so minutes either living in the shoes of Sarah herself or trying to take care of her as Joel, dodging all sorts of environmental obstacles and making it through the opening of the game, barely hanging on to life itself. Taking control away after this and losing everything diametrically opposes the end of the game, where Joel forcibly kills those about to operate on Ellie, finally reclaiming his agency and purpose in this world. No other game packs such an emotional punch in the opening sequence, and it's why The Last of Us is easily one of the best openings in video game history. However, if we're sticking to things that play into video games as a medium, there is one that fits better. At number 1, World 1-1, Super Mario Bros. Imagine the scene. It's 1985 and it's likely you've never played a video game before. Starting this up with a controller in your hand, your first instinct is to try out each of the buttons. Okay, so this plus sign moves the guy and A makes him jump. It's simple enough, and oh man, is this music catchy as hell. That little brown mushroom killed me, so maybe let's try jumping on its head. Success. The chimes of the golden coins, the question mark boxes giving you power-ups, everything that you need to know about Super Mario Bros. Is contained within the first few screens of the game. The learning curve is absolutely perfect, teaching you and leading you through without you ever really being aware that you're essentially in a tutorial. One of the best-selling franchises in video game history owes everything to the sublime level design of that original title. And there's the fact that the NES saved gaming after the almighty crash of 1983. If every beat of this level wasn't pitch perfect, you can kiss goodbye to the industry as we know it today. And that is my rundown of the best opening levels in video game history. Let me know your favorites down in the comments below, and please subscribe to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. For now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com, and I'll catch you soon.